The Zeltharian High Command had made their calculations with absolute certainty. Humanity would surrender within 3 solar cycles. The mathematical models were flawless, accounting for every variable: military capability, resource distribution, psychological breaking points. The species called human would kneel, just as 47 civilizations had before them. Commander Vexthor reviewed the compliance projections on his holographic display aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. 99.7% probability. The humans would obey. On the colony world of New Harmony, Anna Chen stood at the communications array, her fingers dancing across the quantum relay interface. The message had just come through: the Zeltharian ultimatum. Complete subjugation or total annihilation. 72 hours to decide. "They're serious," Jackson Moore said from behind her, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. The former Marine had seen combat, but never against a civilization that had conquered half the known galaxy. Anna turned to face him, her dark eyes reflecting the cold light of distant stars through the observatory dome. "Of course they're serious. They've never lost." "There's a first time for everything," Jackson replied, but even he didn't believe it. New Harmony was a frontier colony, barely 5,000 souls scratching out an existence on the edge of explored space. They had mining equipment, terraforming drones, and exactly 12 outdated defensive platforms that couldn't stop a meteor, let alone a Zeltharian battle fleet. The council meeting that night was chaos. Governor Petrov wanted to surrender immediately. Chief Engineer Williams argued for evacuation, though everyone knew there weren't enough ships. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo suggested negotiation, as if the Zeltharians had shown any interest in compromise. Anna listened to them all, her mind racing through impossible scenarios. She had been a systems architect before coming to New Harmony, designing quantum networks that connected solar systems. Jackson caught her eye across the crowded hall, and she saw the same desperate calculation in his expression. When the shouting died down, Anna stood. "We're not going to surrender, and we're not going to run." The room erupted again, but she pressed on. "We're going to send a message. Not to the Zeltharians, to humanity." Jackson understood immediately. "The beacon network," Anna nodded. "Every human colony, every station, every ship within 100 light years. We tell them what's happening here. We tell them that the Zeltharians think we'll just roll over." "That won't stop them from destroying us," Petrov said quietly. "No," Jackson agreed, moving to stand beside Anna, "but it might stop them from destroying everyone else." They worked through the night. Anna modified the quantum relay to broadcast on every human frequency simultaneously, while Jackson coordinated the colony's pitiful defenses. Not to win, that was impossible, but to buy time. To make the Zeltharians work for it. The message went out 36 hours before the deadline. "This is New Harmony. We will not kneel. If you can hear this, remember us. Remember that someone stood." Commander Vexthor intercepted the transmission and dismissed it as the irrational final gesture of a species that didn't understand the calculus of power. He ordered the fleet to advance. But something happened that the Zeltharian models hadn't predicted. Couldn't have predicted because it had never happened before in their centuries of conquest. Humanity heard the message, and humanity answered. The first ship arrived 60 hours after Anna's broadcast, a mining vessel from the Kepler belt, barely armed but moving at full burn. Then came a transport hauler that had retrofitted its cargo bay with missile tubes, a science vessel carrying experimental weapons no one was sure would work. Pleasure yachts, corporate shuttles, military corvettes that had been mothballed for decades. By the time the Zeltharian fleet reached New Harmony's orbital space, they faced not a helpless colony, but an armada of 500 human ships, mismatched, uncoordinated, outnumbered 3-1 by the Zeltharian forces, and absolutely refusing to back down. Anna watched from the command center as the impossible fleet assembled in orbit above her. Jackson stood beside her, tears streaming down his face. "They came," she whispered. "Of course they came," Jackson said, his voice breaking. "We're human. That's what we do." Commander Vexthor stared at his tactical display in something approaching horror. The models had been wrong. Catastrophically wrong. They had calculated human strength, human resources, human tactical capability, but they had failed to calculate human stubbornness, human pride, human refusal to accept the unacceptable. The battle lasted 14 hours. The Zeltharians had superior technology, better weapons, and centuries of military experience. But the humans had something the models couldn't quantify. They had come knowing they would probably die, and they had come anyway. When the Zeltharian flagship finally limped into hyperspace, retreating for the first time in the High Command's history, New Harmony still stood. Battered, burning in places but standing, Anna and Jackson emerged from the shelter as dawn broke across the colony. Above them, the surviving human ships formed a protective constellation against the stars. "They thought we would obey," Anna said softly. Jackson smiled, exhausted and exhilarated. "They should have known better. We're human. We don't obey. We endure. We adapt. We fight." And across the galaxy, 47 subjugated civilizations heard the story of New Harmony and began to wonder. If humanity could stand, perhaps they could too. The Zeltharian High Command would recalculate their models, adding new variables they had never considered before. But some things they would learn simply couldn't be calculated. Human spirit wasn't a number in an equation. It was something far more dangerous. It was hope, armed and refusing to die.